Hello to my OyataTe International family. 2020 this year has been pretty rough. All of our seminars have been canceled due to COVID-19 throughout the year, and here we are vastly approaching the end of the third quarter. It's almost September, and we have had no seminars that have gone through. The only thing we've been able to do is some online training, and I really wanted this year to be a little bit about Taika's Kyusho, Ateme, Tuite attacks based on foundational weaknesses. That was kind of the theme that I was going to train with this year, and regrettably it just has all come unraveled because we have not been able to do the training. All of Taika's weakness training was designed to exploit a weakness in our opponent. Vital weakness attacks, vital attacks. Kyusho is what everybody knows that of. Vital doesn't necessarily mean it's a point on a meridian. For Taika, attacking a weakness in your opponent was what was vital to the completion of that technique. One of the very first things you do when you first join into a martial arts program is learn the stances. And typically, as a new student, you come in, you learn the basic stances, and maybe your instructor goes over where that stance has its strengths, or maybe they just kind of basically go over the right foot and the right back stances where the majority of the weight is, etc. Well, Taika would know where the weak parts of a stance were, and he would exploit that, whether or not he was doing Tuite, Ateme, Kyusho, and that was the foundation, literal foundation of his weakness attack. I'm going to show some, just kind of scratch the surface of where I was going this year, 2020, in my seminar circuit that I was planning on doing, and we got sidetracked via COVID-19. So here in the following video is just a little bit of Taika's philosophy of how to attack the foundation while you're adding in other principles like cutting off the avenue of escape, three-dimensional attacks where you're doing dermal redirection. All of those layers of Taika philosophies, Taika principles are great, but he would layer those upon his attack of the foundation. So hopefully you can get a little bit of a taste of where I was going and maybe spend a little bit of time experimenting with this in the rest of whatever COVID land we are in. Heels are just past the toe. Okay, go heels in. Balance goes forward now. Okay, go heels too far out, farther out than normal. So now your balance is disrupted forward. Blue. Green.
Obviously, not all stances were represented, but it does give you an idea of how to conduct the weakness experiment with peers and students. The human is a bipedal species, and thus any stance has two strong angles and two weak angles. Depending on the angles of the feet, bend of the knees, etc., these weaknesses move with each possible stance. Taika stacked other principles on top of his exploitation of the weaknesses of the opponent's stance. This helped him to appear faster than a normal human as he effectively pulled the strings of the puppet and forced the opponent to move the way he needed him to in order to end the encounter.
So with a right hand push, principle of X, that is the angle of attack we need for the Tuite to work, all right? It is pointing at a weak spot. It's pointing at the blue weak spot. So as I do this and I go across that 45, I get a reaction. Get back in the same stance and give me the left hand. As I do a same side attack, his left leg is forward, his left hand is forward, principle of X, my angle of attack is his strong leg, and it's going basically through the two strong legs. So it's easy for him to push and resist against me. So if I change this angle of attack from pointing diagonal this way to pointing towards the weak spot in the back, or, well, we'll do the in the back first. So I'm here, I turn, and I go to that weak spot in the back. It works. Reset. Now, if I turn and point it way outside, I've got to go quite a more significant distance. If I rotate that up, now my angle of attack is in front of his right foot. So I'm able to get the weakness, I'm attacking the weakness in the feet instead of attacking the strength of his feet, of his foundation. As he changes, these two weak spots rotate a little bit. So if right now, we'll say this weak spot's here, if he turns that heel back to a back stance, his chest changes as he does that. Go back and forth a couple times. So that chest is changing, so the weak spot is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So again, he has now changed his weakness, slid it over a little bit, and slid it back a little bit in relation to what I'm having to overcome, his foundation. So again, my angle of attack in left to left is normally here when we learn foundational basic Tuite. But I'll be fighting this front leg and the back leg. He's able to brace for impact, and I don't want him to brace that direction. If I do no Tuite at all, but I push his arm back here, I expose more weakness. You can see it's harder for him to resist this way than it is this way. So when I go into here, if I change the angle of his forearm, now my angle of attack is pointing to that back, and I can take him down. Other hand. So, crossbody, he's got crossbody foundation. He's attacking with his right hand, his left is forward. He is strong this way. He is strong that way, strong this way. This direction, not so much. This direction, not so much. So, 45, principle of 45, that is already perfectly facing that back weakness. So I'm here, and it's very easy to get an initial reaction. Front body weakness, His front body weakness is here. So if I use the intermediate advanced principle of primary reversal, I can take him to that spot. Okay. Cross body attack, strong. Everything's strong from this angle. Everything's strong from this angle. It's very strong along that line, and then it gets progressively weaker as we get to the openings. So again, this and this, strong, strong, angle of attack, going right down through to the blue disc, which is his rear weakness. I'm able to get easy body reaction. Coming back, primary reversal, easy body reaction. This side, if I do that exact same thing, I'm here and I push, principle of X is going directly in line with his two strong legs. If I rotate this to take his elbow up, now that principle of X goes right down to the weakness. Again, if I bring it up here, principle of X goes to that. If I come all the way out, maybe even switch to this technique, that principle of X is now towards the front. I can take him to that weakness. So some basic foundational principles here. His foundation, he is strong here. If I just do your standard forearm strike in that direction, I am striking the same as I'm hitting. I'm striking into his strength. He is completely strong diagonally across that position, right? So the strength is at its peak through that diagonal of the two legs, and then gets a little bit weaker as we branch out until it's at its weakest points diagonal across. So the more I change the angle of my strike, the more I will affect his balance. If I just go completely straight, and I'm not putting any 3D motion into this right now, I'm just going completely straight, he's able to brace for impact. See, I purposely didn't hit, and you see he lifted his arm and pushed his body forward. He's able to brace for impact. Even coming in and hitting here, he's able to brace for impact. So I'm cheating to get that reaction to where you see he braces for impact. That's natural. Natural human anatomy, natural human reaction. So if the punch is coming forward, his body is coming forward, then if I hit and redirect, adding kinetic energy into the strike, I'm adding to it, that's facilitation. If I am striking and redirecting into it, so we're going head on, he's going this direction, and I do my 3D motion, I strike and change my motion into that, we're crashing head on, that is deprivation. I'm depriving him of the kinetic energy moving forward. So along that line, if he's striking, and a little unrealistic of me, but maybe I'm out here and I facilitate in this direction. His body is set up tug of war, back leg to front leg, and I don't get any reaction because he can brace for impact, he can absorb it. If I facilitate that forward motion and go to the weakness, however, then see, I get much bigger body reaction. Not even hitting hard, I'm just, as the second I impact, I change directions to that. So that's facilitation on a forward moving arm. If I strike and go towards his back leg, that's deprivation. but I'm going into the strength. So he can absorb that, he can push against it. If I strike and redirect towards the weakness, then I get a much bigger reaction. It turns his body. So it's going towards that weakness there. Now, if I add other principles like preventing escape, right? His arm is coming forward. If I just hit it, it wants to go away. But if I put an obstacle in its path and take it to that direction, I get a much bigger reaction out of his body. I'm stacking principles, right? I'm striking, redirecting to a weakness, but I'm also preventing escape. Mirror coming up, you would see Taika do this motion a lot, coming up like this. Even in Shio Happo no Te, he frequently comes up here, striking, going into strength, going into weakness, right? Drastic motion. Now, if he punches and starts pulling back, his kinetic energy is going back. So if he's pulling back and I strike his arm and go that direction, I am now facilitating. I'm adding kinetic energy into it. If I strike as he comes back and I hook this direction, then it's a train wreck. I'm deprivating, right? So facilitating is going with, deprivation is going against, head-on collision. And then extreme basic, you're not going forward or back with it, you're not adding or subtracting, which is next to impossible to actually get that flat 0-0 kind of strike. So at any rate, if he's pulling back and I strike and go to that strong, right, he's able to kind of hold that arm there. If I am going this way, I do the head-on collision and I go there, I get quite a large body twist. So I head-on collision, deprivate, or I can facilitate as I'm going in and go, as he pulls back, I go back to that weakness right there. All right, I'm going to talk about Kyusho consequences, right? So if he is punching forward and then retracting, and I do a strike as he's retracting, so my weakness is here, my weakness is back there. If I go this direction, I'm going towards that back leg, and I might get something, right? But if he's pulling back and I rotate my hand, so see how I went to that weakness. If I strike inside body, then torso is going to rotate. So if he's got this hand chambered, he just came up with this punch, the next punch is coming here, right? Logically, something to that effect. If I strike inside as he pulls back, and I do that motion, the consequence is I'm speeding up this punch here. So his torso, what I'm affecting is as I come in and strike this, I'm spinning his torso, which makes that punch come up faster. What Taika would do is if he was going to do a strike here, and he knew he was going to have this consequence of rotating the chest, as he did that, go ahead and cock, as he goes here, see, he's already, that cover hand is already here, which gets him in position faster. That's one of the things that made him seem so wicked fast. He wasn't going here and spinning their torso and then making the decision that I've got to handle that, right? He pre-planned that when he struck this hand's up here because I'm helping prevent escape here, which slows things down, but my hand is ready to cover the face. So it's right there, already covering, and it makes it look like he's wicked fast. We're in a forward stance. weakness is basically in Oyata's forward stance, the chest is pretty much straight, and so these are at about a 45-degree angle. So when we're doing dermal redirection, when we're impacting body, I want to redirect to those weaknesses. Now obviously, if I'm doing body shots to the front, this is pretty much out. I can do arm shots and come this direction, but I can't really pull. Of course, I can do kidney shot in that direction, but essentially the back is my only direction that I can go with, like a good gut shot, pec, brachial plexus, anything like that. So natural human reaction is to brace for impact, and you can do that best in this kind of area and in this kind of area. So if I come up and hit diagonal across that, nothing happens. If I don't touch him at all, but I come in like that, you see he braces for impact. Human reaction. If I impact and then switch to the blue circle, I completely disrupt his body's balance. I'm impacting and then I'm sloshing my coffee to the direction of the blue circle. So I come in and I'm not hitting hard, I don't really have to. And I switch to that. If I come in and try to throw my coffee this direction, nothing happens, right? He can absorb that or push against it. The two things he can do is absorb and push against, but he can't in that direction. So a pec shot or brachial plexus up here, if this is supported and gradually gets weaker, he's still somewhat supported in this little half moon circle here or here, right? So if I go and just take this shot at an angle or curve it in towards that back leg, nothing happens. If I take it like Nisei-shi kind of motion and go out towards that back circle, he can't support that. He just completely loses his body stability there because I impacted and did that Nisei-shi or even Nahanchi kind of motion. Impact and rotate. Back stance, again, is the same, right? If I'm coming in this way, you see the two legs that are supporting the foundation. Bipedal beings that we are, we've only got two table legs. These two table legs are missing, so that's where I need to direct my attack. I can hit and go that direction. He gets back in that position and comes up. Maybe he's got a punch here, and I do typical Oyata fashion of prevent escape, strike, come in, but rotate out. I'm going to get that Kyusho consequence. This arm is going to come forward faster. So prevent escape, strike, and that hand's already there, right? And see how off balance he is. So he's very easy to set up this combination to where if he's coming in with this punch and I did my little shuffle out, prevent escape, I'm going to strike, follow through, force efficient, I'm force efficient, and then at that last minute do this hand that was preventing escape is right there, and his balance is taken. So I just carriage over, and I go in to do an arm bar. Now from the arm bar, his balance, just stay right there for me, because of the change in his stance, I'm here ready to do my arm bar, and there's his weakness, and there's his weakness. He's strong here, he's strong here. Okay, so as I go to do an arm bar, I put my elbow right along that seam, intercostal brachialis, and see, if I hadn't held on to him, he would have fallen over. So I'm taking that balance, rowing. Now, he's strong here, but if I row it far enough, I can take him back to that blue circle. So everything we are doing, whether it's wrist lock, elbow lock, shoulder lock, arm strikes, Kyusho, ateme, all of it works off attacking the weakness. The weakness is his foundation. So let's further talk about us exploiting the legs, the foundation, with our own legs. He's in a forward stance. Again, he's strong along that line, weakest along this line. So from this position, if I am doing various techniques, no, like a knee spear, if I go straight into him, if his legs are very nerve sensitive, yes, he's going to feel that. But he can brace for that impact. If he's full of adrenaline, not nerve happy, on PCP, fentanyl, any of these drugs that affect him, he's not going to get that nerve reaction and pain when we go along that line. Now, if I either hit and curve or come at it from more of an angle, like a round knee or roundhouse or shin kick, then what's going to happen is instead of going into his strength, I go in to his weakness. That knee curves into that. So maybe his punch came up and I'm striking and I kick that direction. His body turns and he's going to go down on that weakness. Same. So he's fairly strong with maybe 10 to 15 degrees of rotation off of that line. But the blue in the back there, he, even with this bent and the strength of this leg, you see it lifts that opposite leg off. So if I can go off at that angle, particularly one of Taika's favorites is either toe kick, front snap kick, straight kick, any of these kicks that put me at that angle of going that direction, I'm going to end up twisting his body and he's going to lose that foundation. Front leg is obviously closer and easier to do this. So coming straight at this, my angle is coming out here, so it's not quite as strong as if I'm going this direction. If I do inside roundhouse, straight kick, front snap kick, it's my body is lining up to go a little bit off the ideal angle. So if I come in and kick, and then as I kick, I curve, dermal redirection. As I touch that skin, I throw curveball into it by rotating that back leg, then he loses all stability. Frequently you would see Taika go really deep on a party as he's doing, maybe he's doing a technique and coming up, and he would pass them and come with either heel kick or reverse roundhouse or something like that, nice and low. Here is my weakness, there's my weakness. If I strike diagonal to the other leg, it's nice and strong. I don't want to do that. I want to impact and then redirect. If I'm doing heel kick, reverse roundhouse, I want to scoop it, 3D motion, into his front weakness. So if I've come here and step behind him, instead of going straight into him, I curve that heel to my front weakness, or his front weakness. So another one he would do, so this time we've switched the legs, so the back leg is on the far side from me. Taika would frequently do this one, is somebody punched, he might come out, come up, and go to strike this leg. Now, obviously weakness, but I can't get there from here. The weakness, however, is right in the direction that his knee is facing, almost. It's got to have a little bit of a curve to it. The knee would come more out here. This weakness is right there. We've got to curve into it a little bit. So as I go and do this motion and come up, as I'm doing this heel kick or inside roundhouse, it's naturally, because of the position my body's in, it's gonna curve back towards me a little bit, and that is natural, that is actually what we want. So as I do this motion, I just snap it and do my 3D motion through his leg, and I end up into his front weakness.